You've been told to be nice your whole life. Be kind, be polite, don't make waves, don't upset anyone. And maybe you listened because, well, it seemed easier, because conflict is uncomfortable, because you wanted to be liked, to be accepted, to be loved. But here's the thing. Being too nice isn't kindness. It's not virtue. It's a slow form of self-sabotage, disguised as goodness. It's a cage disguised as a gift. Being too nice means you give away your power like candy. You dilute your strength to make others comfortable, and in the process you lose sight of who you are. You mute your voice so others don't feel threatened, and suddenly, your needs don't matter. You say yes when your gut screams no, and then wonder why you're drained, exhausted, angry, and resentful. That's not being nice. That's being invisible. Here's what nobody tells you. Kindness doesn't mean weakness. Being strong doesn't mean being harsh. There's a line between respect and submission, and if you keep crossing it to please everyone, you will eventually lose yourself. Being too nice is like a virus eating away your boundaries. It's not just a bad habit, it's a betrayal of your own worth. Why do you do it? Because you fear rejection, because you don't want to be seen as difficult, because you've been trained to believe your value depends on others' approval. You fear the discomfort of conflict so much that you're willing to sacrifice your dignity, your dreams, your peace of mind. But what you need to realize is this. When you keep bending over backwards to avoid conflict, you are creating the very storm you're so afraid of. People sense your hesitation, your reluctance, your lack of firmness. They don't respect what they don't fear. And without respect, you lose influence, you lose control, you lose yourself. Being too nice is not a badge of honor. It's a warning sign. It means you are allowing yourself to be walked over. You're letting people take more than they give, draining your energy like a leech, and you're doing it all while telling yourself it's just how you are. But who are you really if your authenticity is hidden behind a mask of compliance? The truth is, people will take advantage of your kindness if you don't protect yourself. This is not cynical, it's real. Not everyone has your best interest at heart. And if you don't set limits, if you don't stand your ground, you become the doormat they wipe their feet on. Your niceness becomes permission for disrespect. Listen carefully. Boundaries are your greatest act of kindness to yourself and to others. When you say no, you teach people how to treat you. When you stop over-explaining yourself, you reclaim your time and energy. When you stop people-pleasing, you open the door to genuine respect and authentic relationships. This isn't about becoming cold or unfeeling. It's about becoming wise, strategic, and fiercely protective of your soul. Being too nice is a form of self-erasure. It's shrinking yourself to fit someone else's idea of who you should be. But the world doesn't need more people who shrink. It needs you at your fullest, your most unapologetic self. It needs you to stop waiting for permission to be bold, to speak your truth, to claim your space. Because when you do that, you not only free yourself, you inspire others to do the same. It's time to rewrite your story. To reject the false narrative that kindness means sacrifice. To understand that true strength is standing firm in your values, even if it makes people uncomfortable. To know that your worth is not negotiable. That you are allowed to protect your energy. To say no without guilt. To prioritize your mental health and well-being without apology. You are not obligated to tolerate bad behavior just because you want to be nice. You are not a bad person for putting yourself first. You are not weak for standing up and speaking out. You are not selfish for demanding respect. What you are is human. And humans deserve boundaries, safety, and respect. You owe it to yourself to become the fiercest version of who you are. To stop being the silent partner in your own story of struggle. To be the author of your life, writing every chapter with intention and strength. The moment you start setting limits, you send a clear message. You will no longer be taken for granted. The moment you stop over-apologizing, you reclaim your dignity. The moment you stop justifying your choices, you own your power. This isn't easy. Change never is. The old voices in your head will scream, but what if they don't like me? What if I lose friends? What if I'm seen as selfish? Those are lies. They're the echoes of fear trying to keep you small. But you are stronger than your fears. You have more courage than your doubts. You are capable of standing tall, even when the world tries to knock you down. Think about every time you stayed silent to avoid conflict. Every time you said yes when you wanted to say no. Every time you swallowed your truth to keep the peace. How did that serve you? How did that protect you? Chances are, it didn't. Chances are, it chipped away at your confidence and left you feeling invisible. Imagine what life would look like if you gave yourself permission to be real, to be honest, to be fierce, to be kind, yes, but kind without compromise, kind with strength, kind with boundaries, kind with boundaries, kind with self-respect. When you reclaim your power, you don't just change your life, you change the energy around you. People respond to confidence. People respect authenticity. People follow strength. And strength, real strength, comes from knowing who you are and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. You've been playing the role of too nice for too long. It's time to step off that script and write your own. It's time to stop confusing kindness with weakness. To stop letting fear dictate your decisions, to stop sacrificing your dreams and your peace for the comfort of others. Being too nice isn't just hurting you, it's robbing the world of your power, your voice, your light. When you start putting yourself first, when you start protecting your boundaries, you create space for growth, for authenticity, for freedom. There's a warrior inside you. Maybe she's been quiet, maybe she's been hidden, but she's there. Ready to rise, ready to claim her space, ready to be unapologetically herself. And that warrior isn't mean. She isn't cruel. She is strong. She is clear. She is fierce. And she is kind, but never at her own expense. So stop being too nice. Start being real. Start being strong. Start being you. Because the world doesn't need another nice person who fades into the background. The world needs the real you, shining bright and standing tall. Being too nice might seem like a virtue, but it often hides a deeper problem that slowly chips away at your sense of self. When you prioritize being agreeable above all else, you're not just choosing kindness, you're sacrificing your own needs, your boundaries, and your identity. This behavior, disguised as generosity and compassion, can actually become a silent form of self-sabotage. It undermines your strength, drains your energy, and leaves you vulnerable to being taken advantage of by others. The truth is, being too nice doesn't make you a better person. It makes you less visible, less heard, and less respected. At the heart of this issue is the false belief that your value depends on pleasing others. From a young age, many of us are taught that being nice means putting other people first, avoiding conflict, and suppressing our true feelings. We learn to smile even when we're hurting, say yes even when our gut says no, and keep quiet rather than risk upsetting someone else. It's a survival mechanism in social settings. People who are easy to get along with are rewarded with acceptance and affection, but over time, this survival strategy becomes a trap. You get so used to bending that you forget how to stand tall. When you constantly prioritize others' comfort over your own, your boundaries become blurred. You start allowing behaviors that you wouldn't normally tolerate simply because you don't want to rock the boat. You might accept late apologies, unfair treatment, or emotional dumping because you think it's being nice. But these actions send a message, both to yourself and to others, that your limits are negotiable. And if your limits are negotiable, your sense of self-worth becomes negotiable too. People don't respect what they don't see as firm. When you're too accommodating, people may appreciate your kindness superficially but fail to take you seriously. They might say they value you, but their actions show otherwise because you've taught them that your needs can be ignored without consequence. In this way, being too nice erodes your respect in the eyes of others. They come to expect that you'll always say yes, always forgive, always put their needs first. This dynamic can spiral into resentment, both from you and from them. You feel used and undervalued, and they become dependent on your willingness to absorb their demands without pushback. This erosion of boundaries also comes at a high personal cost. Saying yes to everyone else's requests means saying no to your own time, energy, and priorities. You might find yourself exhausted, overwhelmed, or burnt out because you're constantly pouring into others without refilling your own cup. When you suppress your true feelings for too long, it breeds internal conflict. You carry unspoken anger, disappointment, and sadness that weigh on your mental and emotional health. This buildup often leads to frustration and emotional exhaustion, and eventually it can cause serious damage to your self-esteem and confidence. Another hidden danger of being too nice is that it fosters a false sense of security. You think you're safe when you avoid conflict or disagreement, but in reality, this avoidance creates unresolved issues beneath the surface. Problems don't go away just because you don't address them. They fester and grow. When you never assert your needs or push back against unfair treatment, you lose the opportunity to build healthy relationships based on mutual respect. Instead, relationships become one-sided and unbalanced, with you giving much more than you receive. This dynamic isn't just harmful socially, it's harmful psychologically. Over time, the constant suppression of your authentic self leads to identity erosion. You begin to question your own feelings, doubt your worth, and lose connection with who you truly are. You might find yourself stuck in a cycle of people-pleasing because it feels easier than facing the discomfort of being honest and assertive. The longer you stay in this cycle, the harder it becomes to break free. Your kindness becomes a cage, trapping you in a role that doesn't reflect your true power. Kindness, when genuine, is powerful, but genuine kindness requires boundaries and self-respect. Without those, kindness becomes a mask that hides your pain and weakness. It becomes a form of codependency, where your happiness depends on others' approval, and that kind of kindness is not sustainable or healthy. True kindness means being honest with yourself and others. It means giving from a place of strength, not weakness. It means saying no when something doesn't serve you and standing firm in your values, even when it's uncomfortable. It's also important to understand that kindness and strength are not opposites. You can be both compassionate and assertive. You can be empathetic and still protect your boundaries. Being nice in a way that destroys you is not kindness, it's self-neglect. The most effective kindness is balanced with strength. The kind of strength that commands respect and builds authentic connections. This balance is what leads to healthier relationships and a more fulfilling life. When you break free from the need to be too nice, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your identity. You learn to recognize your worth without needing constant validation from others. You start to set boundaries that protect your well-being, and in doing so, you earn the respect of those around you. You become someone who doesn't just give but also receives, someone who doesn't just survive but thrives. The first step to ending the destructive cycle of being too nice is awareness. Recognize the ways you've been giving away your power. Notice when you say yes out of guilt or fear. Pay attention to how you feel after interactions. Drained, anxious, or resentful? Those feelings are signals that your boundaries are being crossed. Then begin the hard work of reclaiming your power. Practice saying no without over-explaining. Start small if you need to. Set limits on minor requests before tackling bigger ones. Remember, every time you protect yourself, you teach others how to treat you. Ultimately, being too nice is a choice, and it's one you don't have to make anymore. You can choose kindness without sacrifice. You can choose strength without cruelty. You can choose to honor your own needs as fiercely as you honor the needs of others. That's where true empowerment begins, and that's where your life starts to change. Setting clear boundaries and learning to say no are some of the most powerful steps you can take to reclaim your personal power and protect your mental and emotional well-being. Boundaries aren't just about keeping others out. They're about defining who you are and what you will accept in your life. When you establish these limits, you send a message not only to others, but also to yourself, that your time, energy, and feelings matter. This is not selfishness, this is self-respect in action. The first truth about boundaries is that they create safety. Without boundaries, your personal space, your emotions, and your values become vulnerable to being violated. People can overstep, take advantage, or dismiss your needs because they sense there are no clear lines. But when you clearly define what's acceptable and what isn't, you protect yourself from unnecessary harm and stress. Boundaries serve as a shield against emotional manipulation, overcommitment, and burnout. Learning to say no is crucial in this process. It is one of the hardest words for many because it challenges the fear of disappointing others or being rejected. But saying no doesn't mean you're unkind or uncooperative. It means you're honest and intentional with your time and energy. Every time you say yes when you want to say no, you sacrifice your priorities and chip away at your inner peace. Saying no isn't about shutting doors, it's about opening the right ones, creating space for what truly serves your growth and happiness. People often confuse boundaries with walls, thinking that setting limits means shutting people out or becoming cold. But boundaries are about connection, not separation. When you set healthy limits, relationships improve because they become more authentic and balanced. People respect you more because you demonstrate that you value yourself. You model the kind of behavior you expect from others. Boundaries teach people how to treat you by clearly communicating your needs and expectations. Without boundaries, relationships become draining and one-sided. You might find yourself giving endlessly, time, emotional support, favors, without receiving the same care in return. This imbalance leads to resentment and exhaustion. When you start setting boundaries, you shift the dynamic. You create a space where mutual respect is possible, where your needs are considered as much as others. This not only protects your energy but also fosters healthier, more fulfilling connections. Mental and emotional well-being depend heavily on these limits. When you overextend yourself to please others or avoid conflict, you neglect your own self-care. Over time, this can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and burnout. Setting boundaries is an act of self-preservation. It tells your mind and body that you matter. It allows you to recharge and maintain clarity. When you protect your mental health by saying no to unnecessary demands or toxic influences, you reclaim control over your life. Saying no can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've been conditioned to please or avoid conflict. You might fear judgment, criticism, or even abandonment, but discomfort is part of growth. Every time you practice saying no, you strengthen your resilience and deepen your self-awareness. You learn that your worth is not dependent on constant approval. You build confidence in your ability to make choices that align with your values and goals. It's important to recognize that boundaries are personal and dynamic. What works for one person might not work for another, and your boundaries may shift over time as you grow. The key is self-awareness, regularly checking in with yourself about what feels safe, respectful, and healthy. When you ignore these signals or push past your limits, you open the door to stress and dissatisfaction. When you honor them, you cultivate peace and strength. The ability to set boundaries and say no also empowers you to focus on what truly matters. Time is limited, energy is finite, and attention is precious. When you stop spreading yourself too thin to please everyone, you create space to invest in your dreams, your passions, and your well-being. You can prioritize relationships and activities that uplift you, rather than drain you. This focus leads to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. Another important aspect is learning to communicate your boundaries clearly and assertively. Saying no isn't enough if it's delivered hesitantly or with excessive apologies. Clear, firm communication helps avoid misunderstandings and reinforces your position. You don't need to justify or over-explain your decisions. A simple, confident, "No, I can't commit to that right now," or "I need to prioritize my own needs" is sufficient. This kind of clarity commands respect and reduces opportunities for pushback or guilt-tripping. Remember that setting boundaries is a skill, not a one-time event. It takes practice, patience, and sometimes courage. You may encounter resistance from others, especially if they've grown accustomed to you saying yes all the time. Some people might react with disappointment or frustration. This is natural, but it doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're growing, and sometimes others need to adjust to the new you who values herself. When you prioritize your well-being through boundaries, you become an example to those around you. You inspire others to do the same. You create a ripple effect of empowerment, showing that it's possible to be kind and strong simultaneously. Boundaries don't isolate you. They connect you to a healthier version of yourself and to relationships based on mutual respect and honesty. Ultimately, the power of boundaries and the courage to say no lies in reclaiming control over your life. It's about deciding what you allow in your space and what you refuse to tolerate. This act of self-protection creates the foundation for confidence, peace, and authentic happiness. It's an essential step on the journey to becoming the fullest, strongest, most empowered version of yourself. Reclaiming your voice and standing firm in your values is one of the most transformative acts you can commit to. It's a radical form of self-respect and empowerment that changes not only how you see yourself, but how the world sees you. When you speak your truth boldly, you break free from the chains of fear and doubt that have kept you small for too long. This is where courage and confidence meet authenticity, creating a powerful force that propels you forward in every area of your life. Too often, people silence themselves to avoid discomfort or rejection. They stay quiet because they're afraid their opinions won't be accepted, or they don't want to ruffle feathers. But every time you hold back your truth, you chip away at your own power. Silence in the face of injustice, silence when you need to say no, silence when your boundaries are crossed. All of these moments reinforce a message to yourself and others that your voice doesn't matter. Over time, this erodes your self-esteem and keeps you trapped in a cycle of invisibility and resentment. Standing firm in your values requires clarity about what you believe and what you will not compromise. Your values are the foundation of your identity. They define who you are at your core and guide your decisions. When you lose sight of your values, you lose touch with your authentic self. But when you embrace them fully, you create a moral compass that helps you navigate life's challenges with confidence and integrity. This inner clarity becomes your strength, especially when external pressures try to push you off course. Courage is the muscle you build when you consistently choose to be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. It's the willingness to risk disappointment, criticism, or even rejection because you know that staying silent or compliant costs you far more. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Every time you speak up for yourself, you strengthen this muscle, making it easier to stand firm the next time. This process is transformative, turning vulnerability into power. When you reclaim your voice, you invite authenticity into your relationships. People respond to genuineness. They respect those who are real and transparent. Authentic communication builds trust and deepens connections. It allows others to see you for who you truly are, not the nice version you've been conditioned to present. This honesty can be challenging, especially if you're used to people-pleasing, but it ultimately leads to more meaningful and supportive relationships. It's important to understand that standing firm in your values doesn't mean you have to be rigid or unyielding. Flexibility and openness can coexist with strong boundaries. The difference is that your flexibility comes from a place of strength and choice, not fear or submission. When you know what you stand for, you can negotiate and compromise without losing yourself. This balance fosters respect from others because they see you as confident and growing. Reclaiming your voice also means owning your story, the good, the bad, and everything in between. It means acknowledging your experiences without shame or apology and using them as fuel for growth. Your past doesn't define you unless you allow it to. When you speak your truth about who you are and what you've been through, you empower yourself and others. Vulnerability becomes a source of strength, not weakness. One of the most powerful outcomes of standing firm in your values is the sense of freedom it creates. When you stop shrinking to fit others' expectations, you reclaim the space to live authentically. This freedom allows you to pursue your passions, express your creativity, and live a life aligned with your deepest desires. It removes the burden of constant approval seeking and opens the door to genuine self-acceptance. This process isn't always easy. The fear of judgment or losing relationships can be intense, but the cost of silence is far greater. It's the cost of living a half-life, disconnected from your true self. When you prioritize your authenticity over external approval, you begin to attract people and opportunities that align with who you really are. This alignment creates a powerful momentum that propels you toward your goals and aspirations. In standing firm, you also inspire others. Your courage to be real encourages those around you to do the same. You become a beacon of strength and authenticity in a world that often rewards conformity and silence. This ripple effect can change communities, workplaces, and families. By reclaiming your voice, you're not just transforming your life, you're contributing to a culture that values truth and integrity. It's essential to practice self-compassion during this journey. Being authentic and standing firm doesn't mean being perfect. There will be mistakes, moments of doubt, and setbacks. What matters is that you keep showing up for yourself. You forgive yourself for the times you stayed silent and celebrate the times you spoke up. This ongoing practice of courage and self-love is what builds lasting empowerment. Reclaiming your voice also involves learning to listen, not just to others, but to yourself. Tuning into your inner wisdom helps you discern when to speak up and when to pause. It helps you navigate difficult conversations with grace and clarity. This balance of speaking and listening deepens your self-awareness and strengthens your relationships. Ultimately, standing firm in your values and reclaiming your voice is about living your truth, unapologetically. It's about refusing to let fear or doubt dictate your life. It's about recognizing that your voice matters, not just to you, but to the world. When you own your story and live with integrity, you unlock a wellspring of courage that carries you through life's challenges and victories alike. This journey is a continuous process of growth and self-discovery. Each step you take toward authenticity strengthens your foundation and expands your influence. You become a force that cannot be ignored because you are rooted in truth, driven by purpose, and guided by unwavering values. This is the power of reclaiming your voice. The power to shape your life and inspire others to do the same.